Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ascension Diaries YouTube channel. My name is Alexis, and I'm coming at you with some more Schumann Resonance, space weather, and global shifts that are currently happening to planet Earth. It is February 7th, Friday, February 7th, where I'm at right now, at about 8:57 p.m. Mountain Time or Universal Time. -7. I get them mixed up because the Russian chart is +7. So sometimes my brain gets that mixed up. But I'm here to bring to you some data about what's been going on over the last few days, over the beginning of this month. And I'm very excited to show you that we've had multiple Schumann blasts just today, which is the most activity we really have had all month. And we've also been having some mild geomagnetic activity and storms over the last few days as well. And so I thought let's start the video with a quick tarot reading, because as many of you know, I am also working with tarot, and those who pledge to me on Patreon can receive a monthly tarot reading or one-on-one readings and so on. So let's see what this energy is. That's what has been flooding in today, because it definitely has been the most activity we've seen all February. So I thought it'd be fun to start with a reading. Dear Source, may I please do a reading for the Schumann Resonance activity that's been occurring today on Earth. What is it that these energies are bringing and healing and changing? And I have two cards that have come out. One is on the floor. All right, so to begin today's video, let's look at the themes that were delivered by Source through my tarot cards, and just take it with a grain of salt as always, but I thought it'd be fun just to look into it. So two cards which I wasn't expecting to get. This is a little bit of a heavier reading, but the first card that we see here are the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups, as you can see, someone's a little bit disappointed. And some emotional investments that were previously, expectations, relationships, investments of your time and energy, those things you're focusing on things that have not worked out with your time and energy. And this card's message is to remember that there are things in your life that are working out, that are going well, and you're allowed to mourn and grieve the things that didn't work out the way you wanted, but the point is to realize what is going well and what is, what investments you have been putting in that are working out for you. So keep that in mind. That's just the energy for today. And the next card is the Nine of Swords, which is the person who is up at night worrying and thinking and pondering and going, oh, if I only did this, or if I only did that, if I only had this, if I only had that. And this is again a card saying stop doing that. So stop dreading and the emotional and thoughts that you had and what your expectations were. And you are being asked to rest. You're being asked to remember the good things in your life. Remember that you are being guided, and you are being there is so much more to the picture than you may be seeing, because you're spinning a little bit. So that's what this message is for this energy. So whatever it is you're releasing, give it a kiss, say thank you for teaching me, say goodbye, and really remember and do your gratitude practices on what you are having and what is working out in your life and the world in general. So that's just what we got for today. And so now let's get into the more right-brained side of this whole thing, the more literal and physical and scientific aspects of this energy that's coming in. So first, I would like to point you to my Instagram page. For those of you who are following me on YouTube but don't follow me on other social medias, I'd recommend highly that you do so, because I don't do a video for every blast. I do usually do videos for the bigger events, and when things start to really pile up energetically, I'm like, okay, it's video time. Let's cover this. There's other channels that will cover more day-to-day stuff, but I prefer to do it with writing and on social media. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, both are called Ascension Diaries. Both have many thousands of people following, so you can join the communities there if I think Instagram might be the easiest if you're like not so much a social media person, but you like following my work, you can download Instagram on your phone and only follow my account, and it will give you notifications, and you don't have to fuss with anything else. It's one of the easier ways to do it. But yes, as you can see here, like on the 4th and that's when the first Schumann Resonance activity happened this month, was around the 4th, not very big, you can see here. And then it proceeded on the 5th to have a little bit more. This was the weird rainbow stripe that kind of preemptively brought in this whiteout strip. And I also post other things like when our podcasts are up and the overall calendar for January, which we can show you right here. I don't make this. Somebody called Schumann Recap right here makes this, and this person has compiled all of the images of the Schumann resonance from the Russian chart throughout each day in the month, and they've also put the lunar phases on here for us too, so we can see. So as you can see here, on the 29th of December there was a blast, and then into January we had the most activity on the 17th and the 18th. Seems like a common number that keeps coming up, but she is a great artist, and I'm really grateful for the work that she does. Thank you, and shout out to you at Schumann Recap. And so now let's get into the astrology of what's going on today. So what's celestially happening is where I want to start, and then we're going to come down into what's happening more on the ground level, on the earth level. So February 7th is when Venus has entered the sign of Aries, and will transit the sign until March 4th. So this is going to be energy that's going to be happening until about March 4th, a month from now. So while Venus is in Aries, we are bold, fresh, and a little impatient when it comes to matters of the heart. We don't look back. We're not interested in saying sorry or dwelling on the past, which is, again, kind of what our energies are in these cards that came up. I guess this is more of the left brain side, but not really. Astrology is still pretty relevant and logical. Billionaires use astrology, as JP Morgan would say. But yes, so it's a brand new day, and that sort of vibe is happening. The Leo moon forms a trine to Venus and Aries, both bodies very early in the sign. We're feeling particularly free-spirited but friendly. So again, we have a full moon on the 9th, so that's going to be coming up. The full moon is in Leo, and so that'll be more energy shifting coming in, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of info about the Venus entering Aries. And let's talk about what NASA has, shared about what's going to be happening this February, and we'll be able to spot Mercury in the sky. The easiest is going to be along the horizon. Around now is when it's the easiest to see. And then around the 18th is when Mars is going to be disappearing behind the moon for about an hour, and it's called an occultation. Okay, I want you to look at that very closely. What does occultation look like to you? Okay, so keep your eyes open for the 18th, because this is NASA's website. Okay, Mars is the planet of war, is going behind the moon, which is, like I mentioned a couple of times, the moon is a very suspicious place and energy and what it's attached to etherically and cords. Some say it's connected to Saturn. Some say it's an artificial thing that's been placed in an orbit to control and be a part of like dealing and controlling the energies of our own planet. So for that planet, for those two things to kind of overlap, and I literally just had a dream about the moon and Mars. So to see this is very interesting. And so an occultation, again, very strange. So heads up, and actually even more interesting is that in mountain time is where the best viewing of this occurrence is going to be. And that's the time zone I'm currently in. So it's going to be taking place right before dawn on the 18th, it looks like. So I also brought this up because Betelgeuse, the star in the Orion constellation that has dimmed, people are noticing that, or scientists are noticing that it's dimming, which can signify that it might be then exploding into like a supernova. And the astronomers are saying, don't hold your breath. It could explode tomorrow, but it could also happen 100,000 years from now. And also that it's so far away that we won't experience any negative effects like radiation from this explosion, but it will be quite brilliant in our skies at the time that it happens. And, if an abundance of light is going to be shooting out and whatever from this star, and it's going to be bright from our perspective, the influence of that energy is going to be impacting our planet no matter what. I think that these people are saying, maybe not radiation wise, but I highly doubt that that's fully true. And I'm not saying you should freak out or anything. I'm just saying I politely disagree with that. And I'm just keeping an eye on this star because it seems like there's some sort of disclosure and so on going on about this star. So I'm going to keep watching it in the show. And now let's move into the Schumann Resonance. So at midnight, so midnight of the 7th, like early morning today, there was a full whiteout, 0 to 40 hertz high amplitude blast that occurred around midnight or, 1 in the morning, around that time, in that hour. And so we kicked off the day, at least here in North America, with a big blast. And the amplitude of that blast in the 7.83 hertz, which is kind of shows up right here. This is where 7.83 is. And this, which looks pretty even to all the way to the bottom here, but that amplitude was apparently a 69. Pretty funny. But that is pretty decent height. I usually will report on things that are like around 20 to 190 is the highest I've ever seen back in 2018. So we did have a 69 blast right in the morning. And then throughout the day, there was a little bit of information. And then into the early evening and afternoon around, we're currently having an experience right now. So I'm glad I waited to do this video. I'm glad. It always ends up working out that way. But we are, again, it's 9:00 p.m. right now. So that's around this point of time on the chart because this loads pretty much right on par, right to the moment. And so we're around 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So around 5 p.m. Mountain Time was when this behavior began. As you can see, it doesn't stretch. The white doesn't stretch all the way to the bottom of the chart, but that's okay because it's still pretty wide out from 0 to, let's just place our cursor right here where I'm like seeing the bottom of the white. I'm just going to scroll laterally here. Oh no, I didn't quite make it. So it looks like around a 28. Yeah, so that's 28 hertz. So from 0 to 28 hertz, there was heightened activity. And so that gets you up to pretty much, that allows from, very, very dull brainwave activity to a pretty high and, almost gamma level, like deep meditation, transcending levels of brainwave. So if you were meditating during this time, you were likely able to reach heights of are easier heights of meditation at this time. That's the theory. And then again at 1 a.m., prime time to meditate. Also, I wanted to point out yesterday around, I would say that would have been in the middle of the day. So around noon-ish, yesterday, there was this very bizarre behavior on the chart. I just wanted to show you because it's always fun to look at these little blips too, where specifically around let's say a 38 hertz was a little blob of activity. Very strange. I haven't really seen this before. It caught me off guard for sure. Just wanted to show you and put that into the Ascension Diary. So if anything weird happened to you around that time, there you go. There's some data here to maybe support that. And so, yeah. We're currently in it. We're currently feeling it. Jason and I just filmed another episode of the podcast. It's currently uploading. I have the energy to do another video. I'm riding the wave. When these energies come in, it's a lot easier for me to do what I do. And I don't take that lightly. I'm really grateful to ride these energies when I can. So here's the 69 again for proof. 69 was where it peaked around midnight and 1 a.m. Today, the 7th, Mountain Time, Universal Time, -7. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with that today. But yeah, and then closer to this early evening, it hit around a 55, the amplitude of the 7.83 hertz, which is this white line right here. Then the secondary frequency in the Schumann resonance is around 14 hertz. And again, during that blast, it hit a 68. So pretty on par and even with the primary frequency. So as you can see, it got slightly less intense around 14, which is right here, down here. So you can see the intensity from 0 to, or 7 to at least 14 was pretty much the same. You can see if we look really close, like we're trying to get really in here, look how pure white that is. And then it starts to kind of get a little bit choppy, but pretty pure. So we can probably say that through 0 to 40 hertz, you can see it already breaks down a little bit. So the next one is around 21 hertz, and that hit only a 23 amplitude. So it did break down in intensity, and then 22, but pretty gradually, still pretty strong for those two. So there you go. But the earth frequency, the 7.83, that was what hit the hardest as usual. And I'm just reporting you from the graphs that I'm reading. This is the frequency chart. So this is 7.83's undulation. So 7.83 is an average. I'm sure you all have heard me say this many times. So some of you are new. Hi, how are you? Nice to have you. So 7.83 is the average number. So this is the chart that actually measures how it undulates to and around 7.83. And sometimes during these blasts, the hertz will actually go to like 8.8 is the highest I've ever seen it change. And so during that blast, you can see, wait, where am I? So during that blast, well, I'm really lost. One second. Okay, around hour 14. Okay, good. I'm looking at the right place. So you can see that actually it was 7.25 was what was the exact frequency that hit at that time with that intensity. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let's do, so again, see how this goes around 14. You can see 14 is around the average here. And then during that time at hour 14, it kind of overlapped, which this is just what the chart looks like. Those actually didn't overlap. So it actually dropped down to a 12.60. Again, weirdly how both of those have actually drooped down from their average during that blast. And then this, the red is the third or the tertiary Schumann resonance, and that is usually around a 21. So that hit around a 21 again at that time, and so on. So that's another chart on the website. All these links are in my description, so you can follow along and do this yourself at home whenever you're like, oh, I feel weird, or I feel great. Let me check the Schumann. I want to give you those resources as well. I'm not trying to covet any of this information. I'm just talking about it. It's definitely not mine. It's all of ours. This is public information. So then this is the quality graph. So the quality is the purity of the vibration. And so during hour 14, the purity of the 7.83, or I guess 7.25, I think it was, I just said, vibration, it didn't really hit like that pure. It was just kind of just average, whatever. More pure for the 14 or the 12 point whatever I said, that hit a purity of a 28. And then the 21, which is the tertiary or the red, hit a purity of a 12. So it got a little more pure in that one, and so on. So that's how you read this chart. I just like it because it's called the Q graph, which is quality or purity of the vibration. And just wanted to show you how to read that. And I wanted to show you again that this space, this Russian space observing system they measure ionospheric data, they measure the Schumann resonance, magnetic field, electromagnetic background level, and so on. So there's other charts that this place measures, but I've come to this page that talks about sourcing their data from multiple places. Total number of stations, 224 stations. So I don't know if all these stations are also measuring the Schumann resonance as well as all the other things that they're measuring. Like it doesn't specify what exactly these stations are measuring. It's just saying that they have them all over the world. So this is the only evidence that I have that this data is being culminated from multiple sources instead of just in Russia, which, if we're not in Russia, you're not really getting that exact exposure, what I'm talking about. But if this is like an average across the whole world, then it's a little bit more accessible, I find, to the audience. But again, I don't know if that's exactly what they're saying, but I just want to tell you that. I'm going to give you that information. So let's go into a place that does specify around the world Schumann resonance information, and let's go. I got something crazy to show you. So shout out to you people in South Africa, because wow, things are happening for you. And this is an area of the world that seems to be closest to the Van Allen radiation belt. I'm going to talk about that in just a few more minutes. Here, I'm just going to cover, look at this. So let's talk about, I wonder if I can make this. Let's just for fun move back to 3 months. Okay, so over the last 3 months, the purple line is South Africa. The purple line is obviously the most active region in the planet that's being measured with these 6 stations from HeartMath. As you can see, that there's other times in the year where the peaks have gotten to these levels. Way up here, like a 644, if you can read that, 0.66666666, and so on. So this is the power, which is they mentioned the power is, where did they write that? Power is the sum of the power in all frequencies detected by the site magnetometer from 0.32 to 36 hertz, and is calculated for every hour. It doesn't say what units the power is, but I'm assuming that this is an amplitude thing. But again, the Russian site mentions amplitude, doesn't say units. This one says power, doesn't say units. I literally emailed these people today because I know I've been all talk, but I've never actually emailed them. I actually have once, but I emailed them again and was like, what do you mean by power? What units are you measuring? I need to know. So hopefully they'll email me back. I did that for all of us, and I'm sorry that I haven't done it sooner. So let's get back into what's happening today, last 28 days. Again, in the last 28 days, this is the highest activity that we have seen. In the last 3 months, it seems like this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth time that this has happened. So we're back at the highest peak in South Africa. The sum of the power is 627 is what they say. And then other stations, like the Alberta station, which is the red one, looks like it did a nosedive to 0, or to 2, it says. And the station in Saudi Arabia, which is number 2, or the black line, is giving no data. It's totally flatlining. You can see it flatlining at the bottom. And then the third site, which is Lithuania in the green, looks like it's at a 108. So that's the second highest one that we're seeing. And then finally, the New Zealand location is at a 62. So these other areas not as active. Lithuania a little bit more, but South Africa is really active right now. So I wanted to point that out. And also I will show you another interpretation of that. This is a spectrogram calendar, and look at this, like another whiteout sort of deal. This is a similar type of instrument and look as this. If you haven't figured that one out, I thought I'd show you. But yes, it looks like it was pulsing. Look at it, this. It's also at the same time every day. It looks like pulse, boom, like huge blast. All day long you're being bathed in this energy. So super interesting. Around the world, doesn't seem like there really is much else going on. Doesn't seem like there's really that many pulses or blasts comparatively. Like comparing to everywhere else, this is a lot different and a lot more powerful. So I wanted to show you that. Let's look at the more recent data I have, which is an outdoor measuring system in Italy. So the other HeartMath doesn't measure Italy. So I'm just looking for anomalies and weirdness on these charts because I don't know them very well. So looking through, I'm looking to see if there's anything like clearly crazy. This one seems to be the easiest to understand. This is the electric field. And so most recently is the 7th, which is over here. There's a whole blackout of data happening. And as another example, during the 3rd, there seems to be more activity. And then the 4th, more activity of electric activity. Here we go again on the 4th. So the 4th seemed to be active, and there was geomagnetic activity happening that day. So let's move on to that. This is all coming from the sun more so. So watching, I'm going to see if I can show you this. These are kind of small. Again, all of these are in my description if you want to look at the sources. The solar wind speed is supposed to be a 400 kilometers per second average. It's been chilling at around a 600, so that's 200 above average. So we're actually receiving quite a bit of data from the sun and energy from the sun over the last few days, which is pretty cool. And usually will cause geomagnetic activity to increase because our magnetosphere will be stimulated from solar wind. How do I exit this? Hello? Oh, there we go. I guess I just clicked on something else. Come on. How do I get out of this? Oh, no. There we go. Sorry, I got to figure that out better. All right, so this is what I'm talking about with geomagnetic activity. Also, the aurora has been pretty active over the last few days, pretty bright. As you can see, it's actually reaching further down and getting into yellow levels, which I rarely see, honestly. I don't see yellow very often. So the aurora is active, which means the solar wind is active, which is all checking out. And then we have some geomagnetic storm activity going on here, where over the 6th and the 7th and the 8th, it looks like that we reached medium level geomagnetic storms, which is the yellow bars here. So again, solar wind coming in, stimulating us, other energy from other stars potentially, but checking out that it could be from the sun. And the electron fluxes have been happening in alignment with these storms, except for the most recent one. I don't know how to exit. I've just been faking it. There we go. Fake it till you make it. Am I right? So here's some data about what's been going on with that. We have been getting stimulated by the sun. Here's some more showing about what the solar activity is being. And on the 5th, which you can't see here, but I saw a little filament right here leave the sun, and then most recently, whoosh. Okay, I want you to look very carefully because you might miss it. But the little movie's going to start over, and look at this area right here. Energy is leaving the sun. I'm seeing a little bit of stuff leaving from there. So again, there is some evidence that there's some stuff going on from the sun, but not as much as we've seen in the past. But it must be the angles and so on of this energy coming off the sun towards us, because we're kind of being dragged behind it as the sun is spiraling through space. So the energy kind of flails off. Well, also the geospace magnetosphere movies that are currently loaded, this is very current, you can see over and over and over that there is wave after wave after wave hitting our planet and stimulating our geomagnetic sphere. So, wow. I haven't seen movies like this in a while, where it's like whoosh, 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 like constant big bands of energy. Look at that most recent one here. It gets really dark, and that one, whoosh, that was cool. And here's again some pressure. You can see here the pressure gets tighter and redder when there's more tension being pushed against the planet. There's clearly some weather going on out there. If this is us, if we're like the solid rooted tree and these are the branches and the leaves, the wind is coming and pushing them around. It even gets red at one point here. A little bit of redness. Where is it? It's coming. Oh, right at the beginning there. Just a little bit of red and yellow. So very interesting. There clearly is activity going on. There's clearly weather hitting our planet. So to get 2 big Schumann blasts, to see the solar wind up, to see the geomagnetic storms up, there's stuff going on. So I wanted to let you know and do this video for all of us, because if you're feeling it, this might be why. Here's another representation of the magnetic fields behind the planet. This has just been reloading over and over, and this has been coiling behind the planet, these red lines and so on, which indicates more activity. And this interesting bulbous mass, I keep seeing this weird circular light blue and dark blue thing going on behind the planet. I have not noticed that really before, so I just wanted to show you that there is stuff going on. Again, this is abnormal, nothing crazy, but okay, so here we are again with This is the ionospheric high frequency vertical loss model. So this is the ionosphere being stimulated, which is what stimulates the Schumann resonance. And South Africa is obviously right here. I would think that this brightness would be actually closer to this area, but it is near where the anomaly is in the South Atlantic, which is right here where the inner radiation belt gets really close to the South Atlantic part of our planet. And this is sort of the very easy graphic to show you what this means. And again, here's another graphic about where it usually hangs out. This all checks out with what's going on again with this chart right here. It's a very similar area. Doesn't seem to dance too much, but look at it. It's actually moving more to the left than usual and stimulating here on the tip of Antarctica, and also again over New York, which is very interesting to me. There's no explanation that I can figure out for that either. So either they're doing something to stimulate the ionosphere in this area, or in that area for some particular reason there is a lot more disturbance going on in the ionosphere. But just thought I'd let you know, show you that. Now let's look at the lightning, because the Schumann resonance is activated by lightning. It also means cosmic energies coming in. Australia is getting way more of the lightning. All those people praying for storms, really, it's really been storming down there, it looks like, for quite some time. Again, not on the southern area, but on the eastern area of Australia. So I just thought I'd show you that. Let's look at the earthquakes of the planet. Most recently, there has been earthquakes all over the place, really, all along the fault lines too, but then in some areas in the United States, which I find always highly suspicious. Same area in Oklahoma is also getting earthquakes, is still happening in Oklahoma, which I had somebody reach out to me and say it might be from fracking and then messing with the groundwater beneath the clay and so on. I'm also looked into underground bases that are there. There's underground bases there. Again, there's another one in Montana, the middle of the continent, and that's unusual. Maybe there's a base there. I didn't do that research this time. And then Rivière Rouge in Canada. Looks like there's been some activity there, really far away from any of these fault lines, but mostly except for over here in Hawaii, which can be due to volcanic activity, really. And everything else seems to be dancing along the fault lines pretty normally, and so on. So let's look for ourselves again on the heliplots, if there's any weird anomalies. Oops, some of them didn't load, but also some of them are just not giving us any data. Looks pretty quiet. Ooh, this is real weird. I've never seen the chart do this. I think it's just because the time has been passing and now that thing is like slowly moving up the chart through time passing. I think it fills from the bottom like this. But looks like Norway was getting some very strange activity. So shout out to all my friends in Norway. Wonder what this is about. Did you feel your house shaking? I'd love to know. And okay, Australia. This is very weird. Haven't seen this weirdness before. Narrowjin, Australia. Okay, if anybody knows, all my Australians out there, I'm talking to you. If you know where this is, if you know there's been any activity, let me know in the comments, please. Dun, 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 dun. Looks like very much everywhere else is extraordinarily quiet. Very good. Let's look at the... Oh, this wants to input cookies on my... No, not right now. No cookies. Not the kind of cookies I like, okay? I just want some, good cookies for once. Not these kinds of cookies. They've just ruined the best word. Cookies should not be cookies in the computer world. I don't agree with that. Okay, so a lot of volcanic activity going on. It looks like we're getting a lot going on. That one in Antarctica is still happening. Okay, what the heck? This guy's been popping off for a while. Oh no, it's going to not let me click on anything because it wants to embed things into my computer. Crap. Okay, well, this is just going to be a visual for y'all. This volcano looks like to be the same one I've been watching for the last month. It's still erupting. Very interesting. There's a lot of geothermal and volcanic activity happening in Antarctica. They say that it's actually melting away giant caverns of ice that the military has been checking out, and then there's like a whole ancient civilization uncovering themselves down there. So that's some theories that have been thrown around, quite liberally, and I want to know if that's actually true and what's going on down there. So more volcanic activity is the more eyes and more attention to Antarctica. I'm always watching Antarctica because I want to see what's going to be happening down there. So what else do I want to show you? Okay, so I had a beautiful another star seed hang out with us about a week ago, 2 weeks ago maybe now, and he showed me this video, which is fantastic. So I'm going to play it really fast for you guys. And this is basically the shape of where our Milky Way, and this being almost where our Milky Way is attached to. And it's called, there's the Milky Way, just on this little tip, this tiny tip, our galaxy. And it's called Laniakea, and it's a Hawaiian word. And this is a really, really cool structure. So look how complex and incredible this is. First of all, the Milky Way is just on this one little tendril of this huge being, in a way, this huge structure. It really puts things into perspective for me as well, and how big and incredible our universe is, and that we're just floating around, and all this space weather can literally be coming from this whole thing. And then there is basically another one that splits right off from it. So there's two of them in a way. So that's just one half of like a whole other piece that they seem to be kind of toroidally attached to each other. And they call it a supercluster. And I thought this was really cool. Astronomers have mapped it. Here is another picture of it. It means immeasurable. Oops, go back. Immeasurable heaven in Hawaiian. And so this giant structure, and that's also why it kind of looks like a neuron. Here we go. Isn't this so cool? These two structures. So we're a part of one of those, and then there's another one that's kind of like toroidally across from our structure that we're in. And the one is called the Great Attractor, and one is called basically the opposite. So there is this massive movement of energy between a pulling and a pushing of divine masculine, divine feminine energy in a way. And it's super cool. The other half of it is called Virgo, and it was so cool for me to see. So if you've never seen this before, I thought I'd show it to you and share it with you, of course. And I just wanted to also say that in the world, there's a lot of energy shifting happening right now, right? And I think these cards are kind of appropriate for what has been going on, at least in North America. A lot of people were emotionally invested in Trump being impeached and things like that. A lot of us in the community I'm in have been watching Trump's behavior and have been following QAnon and have been watching this other narrative that seems to be predicting itself and proving itself over and over, which is why it's so interesting that, he's a part of a group that has been working a very long time, maybe even from the Egyptian times, really, to liberate humanity from the control structures of like beings who worship, not great deities that feed on the suffering of lower dimensional beings, and that's kind of the energy they eat, is like pain and suffering. So there's this whole thing about it. But to watch Trump being officially acquitted and have all this energy shifting and the timelines shifting in the direction that was predicted, at least from the QAnon group and so on, is very fascinating to me. And it's almost been this very interesting release and relief, and it feels like a forward moving momentum is going on. A pilot or a head person from Air Force One was arrested for pedophilia, and there has been other people who have been arrested and taken out of the White House promptly after this. A lot of people saw Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech behind him. There's talk that that's actually illegal, and that might be the reason why she gets, removed from her position, and there's a lot of drama going on, but it seems like a lot of justice. And I'm just going to be honest with you that that's how I feel. That's what I'm intuitively feeling about the situation. I've been watching closely. I've been trying to be neutral. Him as a person, I feel like I want to do a whole episode of like really digging and trying to find as much stuff on this person as possible, but so far I feel like they would have really thrown it in his face and it would have stuck if it's true that he was truly an evil person, and I don't feel like he is. But I'm still opening up the potential that I can be wrong, and I think that's a fair statement, and I think that's a fair state to be in, and for us to kind of put our egos in check and be like, I can be wrong about things, and also I can be optimistic about the world I'm in. And that's how we create the best world, is to be optimistic and want a good timeline and want forgiveness and want to move in a direction as a family, a planetary family. And that's why I do the space weather too, because it brings you to a state of consciousness where you realize that you're a planet on this giant structure in space, and you are being affected by the energy that is moving around you. And as a planet, we are pretty much equally affected by what's going on in space. And that brings, in my opinion, unity and community together. And that's what I really strive for. So I really hope and continue to push to be the timeline that Trump and the people who are working with him and are working towards the future are facing and looking to unity and community of our Earth in general, and then our Milky Way, and then our giant supercluster. And that's the direction that I want to go. So I just wanted to let you know that's how I feel and share that. And I feel optimistic about the things that are happening right now. And I will continue to try and like be humble about it and try and keep an open conversation and respectful conversation with everyone, because I know that there is a lot of division that's being tried to have over people, and we are no longer that naive, I think, and we are not trying to be divided anymore, because it's an illusion. And I think that's the direction all these energies and Schumann resonance and everything are stimulating us to understand and embody in ourselves. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who supported me through January when I had a call for help, being like, hey, I want to stay in my place so I can like sleep in a bed and have a toilet for a while. And it's been so nice, and I'm so grateful for all of your help. Truly, like, it's been so nice. And I want to thank all of you who have signed up to my Patreon. We're still, I'm still working forward and working on becoming more sustainable and having that, level of prosperity where I don't need to continue, asking in a way, where I will have a community that sustains me in a way so I can continue to sustain and grow. And what I want to do next is group meetings and group collabs and going out in the Red Rocks with people and all of you, and like doing activities and like dance parties and everything. Like, I really, really want to start that. So we're getting there. I feel more grounded and healthier than ever, like truly. And I'm really excited to have that energy to like host events and do things like that, and like reach my next level of maturity as a person and as a community member. And, that's my Saturn return coming up pretty soon. So I'm like, I feel it. I feel like another layer of responsibility is right here, and I'm getting prepared. I'm getting healthy. I'm getting ready to hold that space, to be that, in a way, a matriarch of the community and being a good leader. And I'm so excited to continue on that path. I am committed to that, and I'm grateful for all of you who have supported the Schumann Resonance blog with a $5 monthly donation to me, and people who are going up and upping it and receiving a tarot reading in return with a $20 donation, and then people who work with me one-on-one. We do an hour-long phone call. We do as many readings and have as many discussions about you and your path as you want, and we can chat and be friends. Like, it's all cool. I've met so many great people through this, and that's an option as well. And Jason and I are just about to try and give opportunities to this beautiful crystal that we've been finding here in Sedona, which is literally made out of lightning hitting the red sand, which lightning is a huge part of my studies and my life. So to have this blessing to find these crystals has been so crazy to me, and I want to share that with you too. So we're figuring that all out, and it's just going to keep going. So again, thank you so much. If you're considering helping us out, it would be greatly appreciated, of course, like seriously. And I promise to use it for the greatest good of all. And I love you all very, very much. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day, and let's continue riding these beautiful energies together. And until next time, do good and be good. Goodbye.